All right, welcome back. This is Jed Irvin. We're here to start another video series. This time we're talking about reducing your stress using automation. So what do I mean by automation? Well, let's say your research focus is improving on some algorithm. Now by automation, I'm not talking about the code you write around running your algorithm. I'm talking about tools that you write on the side to help you with your workflow. Perhaps you have some data that needs to be converted into a form before it can be used as a training set. Perhaps you have a process where the output of your algorithm is a bunch of data that needs to be organized in a certain way, and you want to write a tool to do that. So that's the focus of what I'm talking about here with automation. 3 reasons come to mind right away about why you would want to write some tools. So the first one is you want to reduce your cognitive load. You want to reduce the amount of thinking you have to do. The idea is that, okay, I solved this problem once. I'm going to have to do this over and over. If I can write a little bit of code to do it for me, then I just have to invoke that code. That's less complicated than doing the steps. That's one. Another is speed, because if you have a script that does the steps, the script is going to invoke those commands faster than you can type them, guaranteed. Third, having steps automated reduces the chance that you might make a mistake. If you have a process that involves 15 or 20 steps and you would be doing those through 15 or 20 commands at the command line, then that's a lot of commands. You might make a mistake, and if it's all in a script, those mistakes just won't happen. You might hit errors along the way because of some processing issue, but it's not like the script is going to forget the command or do the wrong command. It's going to do exactly what you tell it to do. In this video, we're going to start just looking at simple complexity wrappers that can protect your flow. And so I have 3 that I've queued up here that I'll talk to. This one, prep Aptainer shell for Conda. So if you've been watching these videos in order, you would have seen my video about Aptainer containers. And I probably mentioned in that video that one of the things you can do with Aptainer containers is that you can shell into them and look around the environment. As part of my workflow, when I was cooking up these containers for distribution to my teammates, sometimes I would need to shell in there to look around and troubleshoot something. Now this didn't happen often. It wasn't like I was doing that every day, but I would need to do it maybe once every 10 days, which was infrequent enough that I would forget a detail. And the detail was that I had to run a couple of commands to make it so that Conda would be working inside this container so that I could do the act of setting the proper Conda environment and doing my little experiment. So after the 4th time of shelling in, trying to set the environment, finally I was like, I got to put this in a script. So this is a 2-line bash script to do the command that I could not remember. And so here we see conda info, pipe through grep to search for this term, the cut commands. These are all command line utilities that are very useful, but their syntax is complicated enough, or I should say their syntax is rich enough, because a lot of these command line utilities have a bazillion options. And unless you use them enough, it's hard to remember. So I know what the cut command does, and I've used it a bunch in my life, but I don't use it often enough that I remember all the syntax. And the thing is, I don't want to have to break my flow to go, okay, how do I do that? Okay, oh yeah, cut. Okay, this command. Oh, okay, let's see. You know, I don't want to do that every time. I want to preserve my flow. I want to be thinking about the things I want to think about. So I write the script. And you know that anytime you have a command line that has a bunch of pipes and a bunch of steps, it's a lot to remember and type, right? And so I was very happy when I put this together. The next time that problem happened, I didn't remember to run this. But when it failed, I was like, oh, I have a script that can do this. And then I ran the script. So remembering that I had the script, finding the script and running it took much less time than digging out these details and typing them. I will bring up a trade-off though, because everybody has different capacities for remembering details. Now, I'm an older person. I can't even remember what it was like for my brain to be 30. I'm 61, going on 62. And for many years, I've noticed that it's harder for me to remember things. Sure, there was a period of sleep deprivation when my son was very little, and 7 other excuses I could probably throw in there. But the fact is, I became less and less able to remember lots of details that I had learned the day before or the day before that. As I've gotten older, I've become more reliant on tools to help me remember things like this. Now, the trade-off is, let's say I hit this problem and I haven't written the script, but I find out from my coworker, he's like, oh, you got to use these commands. Oh, okay, so I'm aware of this thing. And it's the first time I see the cut command. And I'm like, oh, I wonder what that is. So there's a certain personality type that would say, oh, I'm really curious about the cut command. I'm going to go study that for like an hour and become expert at it so that I can always do a cut command at the drop of a hat. If I run into some situation where that would be helpful, it's at my fingertips. There's another personality type, which is a bucket that I fall into, which is I learn enough to get past the barrier that I'm on now, and then I move on. The problem with my kind of personality type is that since I don't take the time to go explore the cut command and see all it can do, I'm completely unaware of all the help that's out there for me. And I'll have people mention things that I didn't know I could do for years that would have been helpful for years. But it's a trade-off. It's like, how much flow are you willing to sacrifice to spin up on these things? So it's a choice everybody's going to make as they're going through their software life and encountering all these different things. So let's look at this next one. So this is another similar issue. I'm not going to read through this, but this is an example of an extremely complicated bit of context that was just so impossible to remember. And as soon as this came up and I had to do this, I thought, there's no way I'm going to remember to do this. I have to write a giant comment. Once I figured out this technique I needed to figure out, I need to put this giant comment in there in the script, have a script. That's the only way this is going to work. And so, this whole mess is just to remember to do that. And you can pause it and read why if you're curious. Archiving results is the next one, the last one I'll mention here. So here I have some Python code whose sole purpose is so that I don't have to remember that. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to spend my time on that. So once I figured that out, I knew, okay, I'm going to write a script around this. That way, I don't have to break my flow. I'll be able to think in terms of the abstraction level that I want to deal with, which is right now, what do I want to do? Archive results. Python, archive results.py, return. That's my flow level. That's the level of abstraction my mind was working with at that time. And I don't want to remember, okay, there's this / and then, but the last slash is backwards and there's 2 asterisks in here. My hat is off to anybody who remembers details like that, because for them, they're just more empowered to do stuff spontaneously when they need to do it. But this is where I landed with this. So the basic need to hide some complexity, it's really easy to write these short scripts and short programs. They don't take a lot of time to write. and they can just keep you in your flow. So that's it for this first video in this series. I'm really excited to get into the next couple of videos because there's some really cool ideas that I think I can share with you that you might not be thinking about. All right, we'll see you soon.